Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East West Show. This is Jack Chow on the East West Show with ICTV. Today with me is my good friend Mark Ang. He is the founder and CEO of Asian Industry B2B, and also he is, by all means, advocate for political issues, who I respect a lot, who I depend a lot. And of course, sometimes doing this job as a show host, you have to stay in the middle of the road, right? When you want to stay in the middle of the road, though, you have to hear voices from the left and hear voices from the right. So today we're talking about two subjects. Number one, because due to the count and recount and recount of the votes, though, the midterm election result didn't come out until quite recently, like a day or two ago. And there are some that is even more delayed. For example, LASD, County Sheriff the contest. Well, it is, there's another recount I heard the coming Friday. So they cannot declare victory until after, this weekend, maybe next week. So that's why we want to start our comment from my friend Mark Ang about the past election now.
Well, I think I have a real problem with the fact that we're 2.5 weeks out of the election and we're still counting votes. Mm-hmm. So this was actually a real issue in the last couple of weeks when we saw similar, let's call it very lax election procedures, very lenient, very, what one side always wants to say, it's encompassing and allowing everyone to vote. But you can have so many, so in this election we allowed the registrar of voters to receive ballots 3 days after election day and still count them as long as they were postmarked. So what does this create? That 3-day window creates, honestly, a window for potential fraud or for potential votes coming in last minute, causing there to be confusion. And of course, we'd like to believe we have an honest, clean process in this, but there's also a sense where we have to draw a philosophical line of how motivated was this person to vote. And if this person was being prodded by a certain party and people are helping them fill out the ballots, is that a legitimate vote? And that is exactly what the Democrats did in this past election. Is they had a significant amount of funding that came from national interests to take over Orange County and some of these seats in California. And what they did was a home that was tagged as not very active but registered but not active, they would go back to that home at least 9 times to encourage them to give their ballots to them, and then they would harvest those ballots and then turn them in on election day. So this is the type of stuff that it's become a circus, and I'm very upset, and it makes me feel like the integrity in the voting process has been severely compromised.
All right. I take that as our overall comment from certain group of people, but it is really kind of awakening for us to see in California what kind of political climate that we're having. When I say business climate, I'm not only talking about what the part that Mark Ang was mentioning, I'm also talking about, in an overall way, I'm talking about the taste of Californians, right? The overall taste of Californians. I hate to call any state blue, any state red by colors, though. But do you think we can still call California blue?
California is definitely a blue state. I think there's no doubt about that. And all that I mentioned about the election process, those are things that still, if you took away that, the Democrats have a control over the state. So it is a Democratic state. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a fair statement when there is no balance in government. In some states, there is a sense of balance. A great example is considered a blue state, Massachusetts, has a Republican governor that they voted in by 33%. Mm-hmm. So he won like 66-30 or something like that. And this guy is a Republican, but he is well liked. Here in California, we have an issue where people with the mere mention of the word Republican, their heads explode and they get so upset. And that is not good, because I am for balance in government. I think there needs to be checks and balances. And actually, overall, when you look at it, I am actually happy to see a Democratic House and a Republican president. And I would like to wish for the best at this point, okay? I don't want to fall into the negativity of, this Democratic House will be obstructionist. I don't want to do that. I would hope that President Trump in the next 2 years works with the Democratic Congress to usher in good changes and address some of the issues that people on the left have concerns with.
Of course, it is easily understood that to the political advocates, they can make a clear distinction between the Republicans and between the Republicans and the Democrats, right? But to the average people, though, how are they divided so clearly between the party lines?
Yes,
you know my point?
It's starting to become a more polarized environment. So Republicans will vote party line and Democrats will vote party line. And this is what we've seen in the state, which can be very dangerous. Because I think even on a local level, especially on a local level, I may support Democrats, even though I may lean Republican, but not fully. I will support Democrats on a local level if I see that there's a Republican city council person that is not fixing the roads, that is not doing certain things that he should be doing or she is doing on a city level. I will vote a Democrat.
Exactly. That's exactly what I did during the past election. I have supported people of the Democratic Party and people of the Republican Party, both sides, right? Okay. The thing is that if you look at a certain candidate, right, you will say, hey, there is a party line there because you always have an R in parentheses, have a D in parentheses, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, to certain issues, such as Proposition 6, though, is not a partisan issue. How come? We lost in the landslide.
Because it became a partisan issue in a lot of ways. A lot of the people understood that it was connected with the Republicans, and also the wording on the ballot was that of ending road repairs versus actually delving deep into the issue at hand, which we have talked about on the show, is the gas tax did not even require a full earmark. So it's really going into the wording became a partisan issue when the Democrats, who hold all chambers of power in the state,
is that he allowed the word to be that way, or he himself purposely made it that way?
Correct, the latter.
Yeah.
Yes, because obviously the call for this was to repeal the gas tax or to end the gas tax that increased, by 12%. So they say. Okay. But you understand, when you raise it by 12%, there's collateral effects, and it becomes more than that. As you can see, Arizona right now is probably at 260, 270, and we're at 340, 350 at the cheapest.
All right, my dear friend, my lovely audiences. Let's take a short moment now. Today with me is my good friend Mark Ang, founder and CEO of Asian Industry B2B, also a political advocate. We will come back after this break to continue. However, we'll pick up another subject. Stay with us. Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to the show, my lovely audiences. With this East-West show with the ICT-TV, we try to cover all aspects of life. By that we mean politics at the federal level. I mean both on the federal levels and the state level. Right? Mm-hmm. So let's move a little bit from the election, the past election, to the southern border, right? What's your comment about what's happening at the southern border?
Well, I think a lot of it is politicization of what is, to me, a very questionable stunt is what's going on down there. So one of the things that really kind of impacted me when I'm following the news and seeing this migrant caravan is, of course, number one, the timing. Having it at the election, right at the midterm elections, seemed to be a transparent way to for the left to push a political agenda. But one of the things that I found the most disingenuous about it is right now there is this outrage, and the left always has this, overly charged reaction. Like, oh, the sky is falling, this and that. Families are being separated. Now it's about tear gas, about how certain people, especially the iconic picture of the Latina woman carrying her children, running away. Now, what a lot of people and the media fails to talk about is that the tear gas was actually very liberally employed by the previous administration under Obama, but yet we didn't hear a peep from the media or from the groups about President Obama's very questionable practices and, let's say, heartless, according to the left, heartless practices in dealing with illegal immigrants that are disrespecting the border. So that, to me, is a prime example of the selective outrage and the curious timing of it, and also ignoring history.
And you started with the first word, the politicized.
Yes.
Right? And I would like to really spend some time on that wording because you use it as a definition. It really gives me an eye-opener thing to look at what's happening. By timing, you mentioned the second word, the timing, right? By timing, I found out that if you had this thing happen, for example, before the election by 2 months, or delayed by another 2 months, probably will see a different result. Because if so, you would have time to make deals with Honduras, with Mexico, to stop them coming out, to start them going across across Mexico, all the way to the border. Right? So, like what we're doing now, the deal should have been done like 2 months ago, and we heard about it right away. However, the midterm election distracted the attention, their time and efforts and everything, so nobody cares about it, except the fact that a few news says it a few times. There's nothing, no efforts taken.
Yes.
Do you think? And I had a friend yesterday on my show, Mr. Chris Shahidin, who criticizes the administration as their failure to have worked out something ahead of schedule, ahead of time. Do you agree with me?
Well,
or do you agree with him?
No, I think that us in the peanut gallery are always critical of when things should be done on what we perceive is the right timeline. I say this administration has done a lot in this first 2 years of governance. I think creating a less stifling tax code, I think confirming Supreme Court justices has taken a lot of time. Attempts, on the healthcare side, which weren't as successful, still also took up a lot of time. And I do agree that the immigration issue needs to be fixed. However, every administration has seemed to find, from Bush's to Obama's to now Trump's, is having a hard time getting something accomplished there. And it's really a little more granular than that. It's understanding immigration impacts all 50 states differently. So you're dealing with 100 senators and 435 members of the House that need to operate under the lens of their jurisdiction and think about how it affects them. So it's really difficult to even look at party lines and say, what can we do, because there's so many different needs. The border states obviously have a different perspective than, say, a district in New Hampshire. Well, that's also border, but let's say Oklahoma. Okay, so these are the types of considerations. So I wouldn't be too harsh on any administration on fixing this problem. And in fact, with President Obama, with a lot of the stuff that he did in terms of enforcing the border, which admittedly are the same, Trump is merely continuing the Obama policies of deportations and also border.
That's exactly where the question is. When both houses were in the hands of Democrats, though, right? We had nothing done, immigration-wise.
Yes.
Now, when both houses were in the hands for the first 2 years of Republicans, though, we had nothing done. Now we have the two houses, one in each. Do you think that's about time we get something done?
I would like to see that. I really would like to see.
You know the question, right?
Absolutely.
The question is very confusing. If you're really talking about a party line, there is no party line here.
There isn't.
Because
exactly.
in their hands, either way, nothing had been worked out.
And like I said, it's because you have red state Democrats and blue state Republicans that have to operate under the lens of.
Oh, you're speaking about state, though. Now, we're talking about California being a sanctuary state, though. That's the harbor. And we have the sanctuary state, we have harbor cities, and you see Tijuana and San Diego.
Oh, yes.
Okay, San Diego belongs to California, all right? And San Diego belongs to California. It's California jurisdiction that covers. And then there comes in ICE, comes in Homeland Security, comes in border control, and I do not see the conflicts there.
Yes.
You see what I mean? Right? And I'll see if there's a protest whatsoever out there over the fence. And then on this side, though, you have so many forces going against each other already.
Yeah, I mean, I really would like to see a smarter political discourse. That's why my organization did a debate on immigration where we had voices from the left, the middle, and the right. And to me, it was a very uniquely Californian debate because, I think a lot of people in the rest of the country, if they're just saying build the wall, which I agree with, but it doesn't mean that we need to just look at the wall as the only solution. There are a lot of other things going on, such as mule networks, human trafficking. All of these things are interconnected with that border.
Speaking of the wall, though, there is such a criticism that says that President Donald Trump is sending troops over there changed the nature of the issue. It was obviously, to their eye, of course, I agree with them, it's a political mistake. It's a political wrong take. He may have sent border control agencies, double the amount, triple the amount, quadruple the amount, whatsoever. The nature of the problem remains. It's a border security.
Yes.
Now, by sending militaries there, you're declaring war. Okay, now, question. So, are you going to shoot at people? Right? What I can promise you, the first blood would cause a huge problem of the United States. Now, by that I say it was a wrong move, wrong take by Donald Trump to send troops over there rather than anything else.
I disagree with that because I think that at the end of the day, you have to look at context. And the context is this was a direct challenge to the border. So in a way, the migrant caravan in itself was declaring that war. And we needed to have something beyond the regular agencies to flex that muscle. And, you know, I believe in peace through strength. I believe Donald Trump has led us in that. Great evidence of that is his talks with North Korea and smart diplomacy. And I believe that Trump was able to show that once again in this. We cannot have them walk all over us. And the perceptions, just by having a strong defense, it was important for us to show that.
Okay, I'll take that as a comment, right? 'Cause like I said in the very beginning, I'm collecting comments from the left-hand side, and I'm also doing the same thing from the right-hand side. So, and now we're obviously seeing that, and do we need to flash our muscles of that way or in that kind of manner, or do we rather have to stay in the preliminary level so that make a problem as it is by nature, right? So, my dear friends, let's take a short moment out. We will come back right away after this short break, and we will take from another angle. So stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends. Hello, my dear fellow Americans. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow on the East West Show with ICTTV. With me is my dear friend, Mr. Mark Ang. He is the founder and CEO of Asian Industry B2B. Also, by all means, he is a political advocate, and I admire him for the muscles that he has and the guts that he has, he and his people. I met with him and with Betty Chu and lots of wonderful human beings of his group, and I admire them as one group that voice out different voices, right? It is time for us to be sober. We've been talking about blue state or red state whatsoever. As a matter of fact, we are American states, right? We should just be American state. If you're really talking about color, we should add the white in. So the national flag is blue, white, and
Red
flag, right? And the red, right? So now, back to the point, right? And of course, what's happening on the news side, though, as to the news perspective, though, we will leave it to some of the media. They will keep you updated. But what we are talking about is to go behind, right? So see exactly what's behind the incident. There is a saying, and there's lots of times when they are reporting the news, though, when they read the news scripts, though, they use the term the advocates. They use the term advocates, and I trace that word through different media and different radio station when I'm in the car, when I'm listening, and in different sources of when I was searching on the internet and whatsoever. There's very little mention about who they are.
Yes.
Do you think such a word exists, or if so, who are they?
Are you talking about just journalists or?
No. Who's the one that organized it? The organizer, the advocator, the organizer.
I don't know if it can be traced to one single person. It's not a monarchy. I think it's more of like an oligarchy.
I mean a group of people or whoever, right? At least we need to find out, for example, if there is a group of people from Honduras who created the whole thing. That's one issue. All right. If there's people from the United States coming over there to create that thing, that's the other. And I strongly believe, by looking at the timing, by looking at the way it is going, developing, it is orchestrated. It is orchestrated.
Orchestrated, yes.
Orchestrated.
Yes.
It
I
is
agree with
orchestrated.
you.
It's a theater show now.
It is.
Right. So by that, I want to go inside to see. Do you agree with me?
I absolutely agree, and I think there's not enough people like you, Jack, and I surely hope that through this show that we are able to, encourage a lot of our audience and the people to care about actually going beyond the surface level. And we talked about this earlier with the gas tax, right? With the Prop 6.
Of course.
People just read the shallow and then they vote.
You were talking about education, obviously, all right? Of course, we failed, right? We failed big time because we thought we were going to win with the Proposition number 6 issue, right? Okay, we feel sad. However, what we did exactly with number 6, though, has to be continued.
Yes,
The
education.
continuation is following. Do you agree with me? Of course, you can argue with me, right? I know you and I, whatever, stand for different partisanship. And by the way, I have no partisan at all anyway, right? Now, Honduras was not born yesterday. Am I right?
Yes,
Mexicans were not born yesterday.
correct.
And United States been here for 200, almost 50 years, right? We existed there. Okay, now, on the second layer, United States immigration country. Those countries are the source of immigration, right? Amicably, peacefully, things were handled. People were going back and forth, and cases were viewed. How come all of a sudden, right? There's a big time. You call it a melee, a bedlam, havoc, whatsoever. It's a big time. There must be something.
And there's a lot of coordination, and a lot of people talk about the New World Order and having, a central hub of power like the United Nations. And I think this is part of that agenda. And I think the opposition against Donald Trump, our president, really has a lot to do with the people in power, that want to further an agenda that is to have open borders.
That's a big word. That's a good word. People in power. Okay? And this power has to be big enough that it can move around globally.
Yep.
Move things around globally. Right? When I say globally, you see, all of a sudden, the Honduras, Mexico, and some other countries, and the people on the road, along the route, all joined them, coming together, and they are well arranged in batch, right? And then they are also lined up with women in the front, women with children in the front, right?
And don't you think about it? We have to go down to that level and actually look at these people that were part of the caravan. And it doesn't seem real to me. For example, that woman, that iconic woman with the 5 children, she had a lot of makeup on. And I say, if you are that poor, and if you are that, weak and wary, that's the image that they're trying to portray.
Yeah, you are down to a point that you have to ask for asylum. You are running away from whatever.
Yeah.
That includes poor life, though, right? So you have to look the look.
Yeah,
look
and it just, these people, and some of them were complaining about the food on the caravan. I mean, that's something that someone privileged would be complaining about, not someone. If I was hungry, if you're super, super hungry and you're in extreme poverty, people eat insects. They eat anything that they can get. If you're stuck in the Amazon and you are lost, you will eat anything to survive.
During my life, my childhood, I had experienced twice of hunger, of a great disaster, a starvation, right? And to the point that have you ever tried tree barks?
I have not.
Tree barks, right?
Oh, wow.
And grassroots, right? Tree leaves,
Wow.
rats, everything,
Yeah.
everything, right? So, okay, now let's not give comment to those areas too much because that might confuse people. But we just fix to the point that they are well organized.
Very well organized. They look like they have some sort of funding.
Orchestrated could be the word, right? So
That is the perfect word.
now. That has to be a big power, not me, not you. We're too small, right? So what could be the good power, the big power? Who is the big power? Who are the big power?
Some people say that it's billionaires like George Soros. I believe it goes beyond that. I believe it goes.
Yeah, George Soros has nothing to do with it. He's not been heard of for quite too long. Quite too long, right? So anyway, that's my doubt. That is my doubt.
I doubt that too. That theory is out there. I believe that it was a test, and at the end of the day, it's a test on our border.
Looking at the timing, looking at the size, looking at the way it influxes, right? They all point to one direction. It is a theater. It is a show.
Theater. It is a show.
All right. And we come back to talk my sympathy. I do have sympathy over poor people. I like them, and I want to support them too, right? So question is how, right? Go. Okay. My lovely audiences, today we're talking about the southern border problems, the migrant caravans, or the caravan, the migrants, when they're at the border, and the way of handling it. We're talking about the fact that they are there, and we're talking about the fact that they are well organized. And we're talking about the fact that we're very well timely arranged. So with Mark Ang, we want to find out. If we cannot find out anything, we would at least reach more questions about that. Right? So stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audience, welcome back to the show. My dear fellow Americans, America is really, my poor country at stake right now because we're taking pressures from all angles, right? From southern border, we are now getting a big hit, big blow, and we do not know how to handle it right now. With me today in the discussion, in the last segment, is my good friend, Mr. Mark Ang. Mark Ang is the founder and the CEO of Asian Industry B2B, a very good organization with about 600 members. And I know that they have a coming up gala, December the 8th.
Yes.
Right? And I'm very happy that I'm invited. I would go there, and I'll take my wife along to see how people can get excited with that beautiful gala. And now, with the story of southern border, though, I really want to share my thoughts with you. I believe that Mark has his own thought, though. Lots of people give this comment. Regardless of what had happened, what is behind it, what on the surface now is a humanitarian problem, right? Versus the politics, right? Now, you have problem taking them in, you have problem to reject, and you have problem to process, you have problem all directions, all ways. Do you agree with this?
Well, I think that's why it's been such a political issue that hasn't been tackled, even when Republicans have the House and Senate and Democrats had the House and Senate in 2008 to 2010. I mean, this is really a complex issue, and this is once again why my organization did a debate on it. We wanted to get perspectives from all sides, and it's one of those things that's very much like life. It's not so simple to just have, and like I said, I am for I'm having, a strong border, because if you don't have a strong border, you have people pouring in. Like, if we just let these people through, who knows where they're going to end up in the country? And, some of them have very questionable backgrounds. So they could turn into a life of crime and infect.
Oh, yeah. You look at France.
Yes.
You look at Germany.
Europe has been a laboratory for this. And there's something to be said. And I think in the political discussion today, there's too much complaining about racism and xenophobia and all of this, which is not really true. When we're nationalistic, it does not mean that we hate other cultures. It is that America, in order to function as a society effectively, has to have a common language, a common set of values, a common way of doing things. If you don't have that and it's not standardized like that, you are going to have a lot of societal problems. It's like that in a business. That's why in every business you have standard operating procedures, SOP. I always tell my employees SOP. We have to update that so there is a standardized way of doing things. You can't disrespect that process and just go willy-nilly however you want. And that is part of this testing. It's just like a child is testing his parent by throwing a tantrum.
All right. In other words, there is a clear distinction in between SOP and the humanitarian problem.
Correct.
Even within the problem itself, though, it has to be dealt in the order of SOP.
Yes, and that's why we have legislators. We're a land of laws, so we should change those and to the environment and adapt, and that's why in the immigration process we have quotas, and those quotas sometimes they ebb and flow. They get bigger certain years, they get smaller next years, because ultimately the U.S. has to think on what is best for the country as a whole in terms of letting immigrants in. And we are one of the most generous. We allow so many people from all different countries to come here. But what we need to try to do is, we have to put barriers on that, whether it's asylum seekers.
There's also another comment. I'm very sorry to cut you short. There's another comment saying, even if it is a humanitarianism problem, it is taken advantage of.
Correct. And that is
you agree with that?
I totally agree. And that is why there is a lot of frustration that is mistakenly called racism, which really bothers me.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of people in the country, and I'm friends with a lot of Republicans that are what we would consider hard line on immigration, but they are some of the most open people in terms of other cultures and understanding. They're some of the most traveled people. Most of us who have been to other countries can see how other societies work, other laboratories of societies where we can say we don't want that for ourselves, and we're happy to be in America, and we're happy to have a certain set of customs and procedures and all of that. So yes, there is an abuse of that. So people, especially the rhetoric on the left, is trying to say, oh, I'm a victim. It really comes off to me like a child who is tantruming and using the emotional card. Oh, I'm going to cry. I'm so sad if you don't give me the toy. But really, a good parent draws the line and says, I'm sorry, I love you, but I cannot give you the toy right now. But if you work for it, and if you show me that you deserve that toy.
SOP.
If you follow the procedures, I know that when we let you into our borders, that you will be a productive member of society.
Okay, I'll give you some numbers. I'll give you some numbers, okay? among those who have already been taken into the process, though, only 9% show up. They're all gone.
Yeah.
The moment they're in, they never come back to court. They don't even care about the approval of their asylum.
Yes.
Right? And for their asylum, though, for the 9%, there is 50% of 9%, which means less than 5% of overall or legit case.
Yes. And that is a real issue and a reality, because if you really wanted to...
that has diluted the problem. Did you see the dilution? Right?
Yes.
It is not 100, it is not 50, it is not 30,
It's
not
4.5.
20. It's a 4.5 now.
Yes.
And even the 4.5 do not show up to court. They're all gone. 9% all gone.
Yeah. And what's the liability on
They
that?
they vanish in the air.
If 95.5% of those are not accounted for, there's some potential societal problems, as we've seen with some of our children getting murdered, like Kate Steinle, remember that, and all of that's the type of thing.
We're not giving definitions of that, but anyway, you look at the other end though. When there's the court, nobody shows up at the court though. What do you say?
Yeah, and that's
Now they say they come here for asylum. When the asylum is the time to hear the asylum case, though, the judge do not see anybody in court.
Yeah.
So where's the asylum seekers?
So there is an abuse of the process.
Does that deny the asylum? Right. Okay. I would like to say this. If I'm wrong, correct me. Of course, we, the nation, we are a land of immigration. I'm an immigrant myself, and so is my family, everyone. Of course, I have my son born in this country, though. That's a different story. However, the origin you're talking about, we belong to the word immigration. You have to go through laws.
Correct.
Right? Number one, you have to go through law. And the number two, if you are and you kept out by law, you have to wait for your turn. Right? There are people in line for 10, 20 years already. You want to jump in, let's be fair.
Yes.
And let's play with the SOP. Right? And then thirdly, in the emergency cases, of course, you have baby crying, you have wife dying, whatsoever though. Come over, we hear you, but you have to remain to show up to court. Don't be gone. Well, the least you want to prove